Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, I'm going to do another episode of Bytes and Nibbles with Breck today. Today I am going to show you my grandmother's cranberry jello recipe. This is something that I've been having for Thanksgiving every year since as far back as I can remember. Now I've actually seen a bunch of recipes online that are very, very similar to this one, but this one is uniquely my grandmother, and like I said, secret family recipe, so I'm going to show you this today. Alright, so here are the ingredients for our cranberry jello dessert. First off, cranberries, because you can't have cranberry anything without cranberries, right? Some cream cheese. We want this to be softened, so I've actually had it out at room temperature for a little while just to make sure that it is nice and soft, because we'll be mixing that in with some of our jello. Going to have some red jello, in this case cherry jello. If you can find cranberry jello, that works too, but I couldn't find cranberry jello, so we're going to use cherry jello. We're going to use some lemon jello. Now the recipe specifically calls for large box of jello, but I couldn't find large box of the lemon jello. But since the large box is 6 ounces and the little small box is 3 ounces, I just bought 2 of them. We're going to do crushed pineapples, juice and all, some white sugar, and some Reddi Whip. Now it turns out I bought the cranberries a few days ago anticipating that I was going to make this, but when I actually finally got my hand on the recipe, it turns out I only bought 12 ounces of cranberries and I need a full pound of them. So I actually had to go back to the store and get some more cranberries, and since they were thawed, I've got them actually in the freezer freezing down again. So I've got more cranberries than I'm going to need, but that's fine, you know, they're good on ice cream too, so we'll go with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to chop up the cranberries in the food processor. So I've just kind of put this in a bowl, and I'm going to put it aside a little bit, probably put it in the fridge just to kind of keep it ready. But I'm going to prepare the jello next, and then we'll go from there. Wow, in the last video it was the squirrels that were angry. Now it's the birds. I don't know what's going on up there, but someone's angry. Ah, the sounds of Texas. Now normally with a big box of jello you'd be using 2 cups of boiling water and 2 cups of cold water to make the jello. But since we're going to get some juice from the cranberries, we're going to reduce the water a little bit. We're going to use 1 3/4 cups of boiling water and an additional 3/4 cups of cold water. So I'm going to boil my water. I'm not going to really show the process on that. I'm sure everyone knows how to do that. If you don't, Google it. So we're going to start by adding the 1 3/4 cups of boiling water and stir it all together to get it all mixed in. Now the cranberries tend to make the jello a little bit on the tart side, so we're going to also add about a cup of sugar, and we're going to dissolve that all in also. Next I'm going to add the cranberries. Get that all in there. I'll have to kind of get a spatula to dig it out of there. And our 3/4 cup of cold water. Sorry, sometimes you need 3 hands to shoot a vlog and do something like this, so had to put the camera down to get all the rest of the cranberries out of the mixing bowl. But we're just going to kind of mix that all together, get it all kind of stirred in, and then I'm going to pour this into a 13x9 cooking pan. Kind of get it all kind of mixed together here. That kind of froze up a little bit, but that's okay. That'll break up. Little frozen chunks in there ain't gonna hurt too much. And I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator and let this solidify up a bit, because when we're gonna put another layer of Jello on it, and if this isn't really nice and solid before that happens, you're gonna have a mess. So while that's solidifying, we are going to prepare our lemon Jello. Now, since there are a bunch of other things they're going to add to the liquid in the Jello, we're not going to use a whole bunch of water in this case. Normally, like I said, it would be 2 cups of hot water and 2 cups of cold water. We're going to use just 1 cup of hot water, and we're not going to use any cold water because we're going to be putting in the cream cheese, and the cream cheese is going to add to this. And we're also going to be adding the juice from the pineapple, which will add to the liquid content. So just going to pour in the 1 cup of water, boiling water, mix it all up until it's all nice and blended. That's coming together really nice. I think we're all pretty much there right now. And then I'm going to mix in my cream cheese, and we're going to stir it all together. Oops, got a little stuck on the side there. This is kind of the reason why you want to have the cream cheese kind of softened, is because you want it all kind of mix in there. And if you throw in the cold cream cheese, you know, it's not gonna dissolve as well. And we want that to be dissolved and completely mixed in. Now, I was having a little bit of an issue getting everything mashed up with a spoon, so I actually kind of improvised. I'm using actually a mashed potato masher, and that's actually doing real good, getting everything kind of mixed in and into little chunks, because that's really what you need. You don't want to have any big chunks of cream cheese in here. And, you know, sometimes you just got to improvise, right? Once we get this all mixed in, we are going to throw in our crushed pineapple, and we're going to mix that in. It's going to go the juice and all, so everything's in there. We're going to just kind of mix that all together. And what will happen now is we're just going to let this cool in the room temperature here. Because as it cools, it'll thicken up a little bit, and eventually then what we'll do is we'll pour it in on top of the cranberry after that's nice and solid, and then we'll throw it back in the fridge and let the whole thing solidify, and we are done. I don't know, I was a little unsure about this recipe because I found out, I talked to my mom right before I started preparing this, and she actually let on to me that she didn't actually find the recipe. She's just kind of doing this by memory. So I'm kind of encouraged the fact that everything looks like the way it should. But I am just going to let that sit on the counter now until the Jello is ready. So we'll come back to this in about an hour once the Jello in the refrigerator is set up, and once the lemon Jello is cooled down a little bit. There's one more ingredient we got to put in there. That's the whipped cream, and that kind of needs to happen when the lemon Jello has cooled off and is kind of at room temperature. All right, an hour has passed. The red half that's in the refrigerator is nice and solid, and this is cooled down to basically room temperature now. We're going to add in the final ingredient, which is going to be 2 cups of Reddi Whip. And we're just going to kind of mix that in, and then we're going to pour this over the top of our other layer, put it in the fridge, and let the whole thing solidify. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that there's several versions of this recipe that are online. And the one big difference I saw between those and this is this ingredient here, the whipped cream. A lot of people put sour cream in there, and for some reason, I don't know, that's what they like. That just doesn't sound very appetizing to me. This is going to give it the nice sweetness that you want, and it's going to thicken up really nice, and I think this will be really good. Alright, that's starting to look about right. Got everything kind of mixed in really good. Just doing kind of cleaning up some of the little bit of chunks in there a little bit. But I think we're almost ready with this. And now we're going to pour the lemon jello mixture over the top of the cranberry one. And do it kind of carefully here. And then we're going to throw the whole thing back into the refrigerator and let it solidify. This will probably take another hour. See you in an hour. Alright, an hour has gone by in the refrigerator. I know it doesn't look very much different from what it did before, but it has set up. It's nice and solid, jiggly like you would expect Jello to be. And it looks just like I remember it looking when my mom prepared this. So I think even though she's kind of depending on her memory for the recipe, I think she nailed it. We are going to take a little taste test of this to see how it tastes. But I want to save most of this, I think, for Thanksgiving. So anyway, let's see what this is like. Yeah, that nailed it. That is exactly what I remember as a kid. So that's good. It's still a little bit soft, so I'm going to put it back in the fridge and let it solidify a little bit more. But this turned out really good. I really, like I said, this brings back a lot of childhood memories because I've had this every Thanksgiving since I was a kid, as far back as I can remember. And it's good to know how to do it now. So that is all that I think I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Bon appetit.